Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Hab and this is the Object 268, a tier 10 tank destroyer. I don't think it needs any introduction really. This is the pinnacle of Soviet tank destroyers and honestly, I think it's the best tier 10 TD that there is, even in its current state. Of course that might change depending on how the tank is adjusted in the future, but as of 2024 this is easily one of my favorite tier 10s. Why is that the case though? Well, I'll try to explain. I think the biggest reason to enjoy the 268, and in fact most of the 268's line, has to be the firepower. The SU-152 has a big howitzer with a lot of bite, the ISU-152 and Object 704 have the excellent BL-10, and the Object 268 gets one of the best damage dealing guns in the game. That's not a joke. This might be one of the best guns in the entire game. 690 alpha on the AP is already a pretty big bonus, you very often can roll near 800 just with a regular shot. 590 heat and 1000 HE damage also isn't anything to scoff at. So you might think the penetration might not be that great, but as over the whole line, the penetration is really good. 303 on AP, 380 on heat and 90 on HE means you have plenty of opportunities to deal massive damage, especially against the weak rear armor of even many heavy tanks at this tier. So it's gonna have some disadvantages, right? See, here's the thing, after playing this tank for god knows how long, I'm still not great in it, I genuinely can't think of a flaw of the gun. Maybe the soft stats, that's a big maybe, because the usual recommendation I would give to playing the 268 is to play it like an assault TD. Use the element of surprise, maximize your ammo usage, by that I mean using HE when viable, and frequently relocate, even if at least a little, to throw the enemy off. It does that really well. But back to the gun. The other specs are quite decent too. 7 degrees of gun depression is quite solid for a Soviet tank in general, and the aim time is not too shabby either. If anything, the aim time might be the only actual disadvantage of this gun, and it's still above average. The reload at 13.7 seconds is surprisingly fair considering the actual damage output you have. Overall, this is an incredibly good gun that absolutely shines if you give it a chance to. The armor is weird. It always was the case with the 268, and so seeing it remain still trollish but notoriously unreliable is not particularly surprising. Technically, the nominal value isn't bad, it's 178mm. What you have to remember, however, is that this TD is on the chassis of the IS-8. That means a pike nose. That means that your superstructure is very bizarrely set up, in that angling is simply not an option unless you use hardcover to hide the normalized side. With the gun angles on left and right, that's not exactly super easy, so the best way to get some trollish bounces is to use the gun depression and wiggle a little. Then again, this line wasn't ever known for having a strong armor profile. It is, however, known for taking the odd bounce every now and then. There are plenty of weak spots to exploit on the 268. There's the upper structure when angled towards you, the rangefinder on top, and, this is a very iffy weak spot, the flat armor right next to the gun. You can sometimes get hit in it, but if you play it like I do, then getting hit in that precise spot is pretty rare just because of the distance. Dead on, you should expect around 230 mils of effective armor on most places on the front, which is still not the best even against lower tier targets. So my point still stands. 1800 health is a very fair figure and a damn sight better than the earlier tanks, so the tank still forgives a mistake or two, don't worry about that. Usually with tank destroyers you can have 1 or 2 points of what I like to call the holy triangle, quote unquote. The triangle of armor, mobility, and firepower. The Hellcat, for example, gets 2 out of 3 with the mobility and firepower. The Jagdpanzer E100 gets 2 out of 3 with the armor and firepower. The 268, surprisingly, gets the mobility part done decently well too, though not to the point of an overwhelming advantage. Considering its weight, the engine power being at nearly 900 horsepower is actually quite decent, and while it doesn't have a ton of effective horsepower, every single aspect of its mobility is, at the very least, decent or above average. Of course, with the nerfs that it's getting to the traverse figures, some might say that it's going to get invalidated, and to that I say total hogwash. worst case scenario, you can always use traverse control for more degrees a second, and in its use case having the buff of 35 degrees is still gonna be perfectly fine. It'll also get a minor penetration nerf that I neglected to mention before, but it'll still have very, very good figures that shouldn't struggle with anything the 268 faces. If anything, the dispersion buff is kind of funny. Anyway, that's it for the mobility. It's still very much sufficient and above average, and gets you places easily. There is nothing to complain about here. So, you know the usual spiel, pros and cons. So, well, the pros, great damage output, great gun, decent gun depression, and decent mobility. And the cons, unreliable armor. This is a tier 10 tank, so it inherently should be a long-term goal for most of you to get anyway, but it's absolutely worth getting in my book, even with the coming rebalance. It's a bona fide tank destroyer that performs really well in many circumstances, and is genuinely fun to play when it goes well. And with that, time for a replay. This one's gonna be big. Alright, so here we are on mines. As I already mentioned at the start of the video in text that I'm just gonna throw up on the screen, I'm currently going for a really bad bout of sinusitis, so excuse me if I manage to expel any demonic sounds out of myself today. Anyway, here we are, mines, tier 10. Well, what can we expect? A small map? 268 is not gonna perform that great here. Or will it? See, here's the thing. I think that the 268, out of so many tanks at this tier, performs still quite nicely. Especially in, like, maps such as this, just because of how versatile it can be. However, I wish to point out some of the mistakes that I will make during this replay. This one is easily one of the first. I actually just... Excuse the replay being a little laggy, by the way. It's because I was playing and I was doing something on the side, but this is the one big mistake that I immediately committed. I tried to push in. This isn't something that you should do on mines in general in a tank like this, because it simply can't handle it. It's not built for this. So, really, I should have just already reversed, and I would not have needed to take that hit. Granted, I wouldn't have dealt as much damage, but that also means that I wouldn't have taken another hit from the E50 and a lucky whiff from the 268. When you're playing like an assault TD role, surprising enemy players is good, of course, but you shouldn't do it like that. That was a critical mistake, and now you see that it cost me 1,000 health. Anyway, since we're in this kind of weird spot, we might as well take a look and see if we can exploit it. So, again, excuse the lag on the replay. I'm not really quite sure what's going on here outside of the connection just being kind of crap then. However, here's a free T57 shot, and that's an easy 1,000 to our record, so we're already at 2,200. People who say that this is a tank that struggles with dealing average damage absolutely haven't played this. This is such a good tank destroyer. It's in such a good spot. I would genuinely recommend you to get it or play it again if you haven't touched it for quite a while. It is worth playing. So anyway, you can see that our team on the map isn't placed particularly well. I myself am placed incredibly poorly. The 183 is actually already there. And that's a very nice hit. And a very lucky bounce. If that 183 actually hit me, I would have already been dead. So that's a little unfortunate. We have already lost the second tank, which, again, is only going to get worse as we just lost the 183. Meaning that there is next to nobody to actually attempt a decap. So that's another tank down, and we are now 3 versus 7. Well, 3 versus 6. It's not gonna get much better in the future. Thankfully, the E100 seems to have gotten a massive bout of cerebral hemorrhaging, because I have no idea what he was planning there. And that also means that the Type 68 is dead. Unfortunately, oh boy, 183. So I immediately shoot him and I pray to God that the 183 is gonna die, and he does. And here is the 2684, and this is where I thought it was going to end. And I kind of neglected to notice that I also have a 2684 on my team, and we're also losing by cap, and he just gets completely knocked out in exchange for my 2684 losing his life. It, however, seems that the enemy T57 has gotten a little bit of a surge of shit to his brain, because he just suddenly leaves at 99 points, completely throwing an incredibly easy battle. The M60 just dives off and dies from the damage. And the E100 here, for some reason, kept trying to push up, instead of just rushing me and splashing me with high explosive. So I'm already at 6,500 damage, and it's only gonna go higher. So, here it is. The 7k barrier broken, but unfortunately, like always, it has to end with a heartbreak. We haven't seen the T-57 for a long time, and, well, he's about to pop up. Not in a very good spot, I might admit. Falling down, he fires, I shoot him, I low roll unfortunately, and then again it's kind of within the average, and we die with a very, very impressive 7,950 damage. Especially considering how the team composition ended up, I would say that this ended up being more of a farm battle. However, is it really that bad? It's still a massive result nonetheless, and I hope that it at least shows, like, the kind of thought process I go in with the 268. I want to surprise people with it, I want to appear at unexpected angles, and I want to deal big bopper damage to them. I hope that's the kind of lesson that you can get out of this video. So anyway, that has been it for me. You know, the usual stuff, the usual spiel. My name is Hab, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, whatever. And I'll catch you guys later. Maybe with another interesting video, we shall see. Anyway, bye for now.